Pixelmon Reforged, the mod pack that combines two of the most successful game franchises into one. But what if we took it a little further? Hello YouTube, I'm Mitch, and today I'm going to be telling you about how I won the ultimate Pixelmon Tournament. Let's begin. So, you might be wondering, how does Pixelmon Tournament work? Well, it's split up into multiple seasons, and this season was season 1, and it was, obviously it's the first season where we were just kind of testing this whole idea out and putting our feet in the water. So we decided to do this server for about a month, and it's just a normal Pixelmon world between friends, but at the end of the month, we do a big tournament with all the people on the server. Of course, since this is our first one, we just did it with a group of 7 friends, and while it wasn't the most organized, like I said before, it was really just kind of testing this whole idea out, yet it was one of the most fun and entertaining things we have ever done. So, you have a month to play Pixelmon and gather a team of 6 Pokemon to take to the tournament. Now, if you're a Pokemon fanatic and a Pokemon nerd like me, you might be wondering what kind of format are we doing for this competitive Pokemon tournament. And it's our own format. It's kind of a mix between the traditional Smogon with some VGC type rules as well. So it's single battles with teams of 6, and you are limited to 2 legendary Pokemon per team. We didn't want people to just run 6 legendaries, that's no fun, so we limited it to 2. We also banned Baton Pass, as that move can be too broken at times, and it's not new player friendly at all, and we have some of our friends who are just learning about competitive Pokemon, and some people who are still learning Pokemon in general, so we just didn't want that to be a part of it. In addition, we banned 2 Pokemon in total. We banned Mega Rayquaza and Zacian. If you know anything about these Pokemon, you know how ridiculously broken they can be, as Mega Rayquaza is the only Mega Pokemon that can hold an item while being a Mega, has a really good ability and some of the highest stats in all of Pokemon, and Zacian has some of the highest stats in all of Pokemon with a ridiculous ability and the best typing in the game with just move coverage. It's just too crazy. Those Pokemon are way too overpowered, so we decided to ban both of them. There's also no potions used in battle, obviously, and held items are allowed. Now that the format and intro are out of the way, I will tell you about my team that I constructed and all about the battles. But first, real fast, I just want to say if you're interested in all the stuff we did in the server, the builds, the funny moments, and all the interactions we had, go follow me on Twitch, as when Season 2 rolls around at September 1st, I will be streaming it all the time. And like I said before, Season 2 is going to be a lot bigger. It's already way more organized, and we got a lot of new people, and honestly, everyone that played in Season 1 is returning again for this season because of how much fun we had. So I'm really excited for Season 2 to begin at September 1st, and if you don't want to miss it and you want to see everything live, including the tournament, follow me on Twitch, link in the description down below. Without further ado, let's get into my team and how I won the ultimate Pixelmon Tournament. Alright, so the first Pokemon on my team is my starter Pokemon, and is actually my favorite Pokemon of all time. It is Feraligatr. So I did choose Totodile, evolved it into Feraligatr. Feraligatr has the ability Sheer Force, which it negates the secondary effects of his moves, but it increases the power of them. In addition to that, I have him hold the item Life Orb, which allows him to hit even harder, though he takes some damage back in the process. The moveset I opted for this Feraligatr was Waterfall, Ice Punch, Crunch, and Swords Dance. Waterfall for that stab move, Ice Punch for those dragons or flying types, and then Crunch for just overall hard-hitting move to hit neutrally for ghost types, psychic types, and anything else that I think Crunch will do better in. I opted for Swords Dance instead of Dragon Dance for 2 reasons. One, this Feraligatr isn't a bred Feraligatr. This was my starter Feraligatr. In fact, it's not even the perfect nature. Normally in competitive Pokemon, you want an adamant or jolly Feraligatr. This one was actually bashful, which is just a neutral nature. So I didn't have Dragon Dance as an option on this Feraligatr, and I chose Swords Dance because it actually raises his attack by 2 stages, and I wasn't worried about speed, which you'll understand why on the 3rd team member. Anyway, like I said before, this Feraligatr is just an extremely big powerhouse. Feraligatr is decently bulky. Water type is an extremely good type to have on your team. And he just hits hard. If he can set up a Swords Dance or two, he has extremely good sweeping potential. And overall, this Pokemon is amazing and hits extremely hard. And he plays very well with the other Pokemon on my team. The second team member that I went for was actually a Breloom with the ability Poison Heal and the item Toxic Orb. Poison Heal, instead of taking poison damage, if he's poisoned, it heals him, kind of like you're holding leftovers. And Toxic Orb, after one turn, will poison the Breloom. This is good because it's kind of like having leftovers, except you're poisoned instead, which is actually really good because I never have to worry about my Breloom getting burned, paralyzed, or put to sleep, because him being poisoned blocks any other status conditions being brought upon him. In addition, his moveset is actually Spore to put opponents to sleep, Seed Bomb as a really hard-hitting grass move, Focus Punch, and Substitute. Focus Punch and Substitute work really well together, as Focus Punch works where it's a really powerful hard-hitting move at a base power of 150, but if you get hit while trying to use it, it doesn't work. If Breloom can use Spore to put them asleep, or find an opening to create a substitute, and the Pokemon hits the substitute instead of him, that is a free Focus Punch hit. I could have went for Leech Seed instead of Seed Bomb, but I really wanted a hard-hitting grass move for any tanky ground rock types, or any tanky water ground types that are only weak to grass. And overall, it's just a nice other option besides Focus Punch so that I can hit other Pokemon. Breloom, I put his investment actually in attack and defense. I want him to be a physical wall, and yes, he's really slow, but he's got some real nice bulk to him, and it forces the opponents to really play around this Breloom and switch up their entire game. And that's what I really like, as he's just a really good support Pokemon with some capability to hit really hard. And Spore is one of the best moves in Pokemon because it's 100% accurate and puts the enemy Pokemon to sleep. And if you're a Pokemon player, you know how valuable putting another Pokemon to sleep can be. Now for our third team member, this team member is the one that I would argue is the true backbone of the team and brought me all the speed control that I needed. It is Galvantula with the ability Compound Eyes and the item Focus Sash. I train my Galvantula to be really fast and really hit hard in that special attack category. However, Galvantula is just extremely frail, so having it hold the Focus Sash item allows it to have a guaranteed at least 2 turns on the battlefield. And the moveset I went with was Sticky Web. What Sticky Web does is it lays down a web on the enemy foe's side, and any Pokemon that are on the ground without the ability Levitate or a flying type, or, the ability Clear Body, it will lower their speed. Lowering their speed and guaranteeing almost all my Pokemon outspeeding their team is extremely valuable and can come in so handy. It allows Pokemon with, pretty mediocre speed like Feraligatr to outspeed Pokemon like Kyogre or Groudon to get those hard hits in as well. In addition, Galvantula has Bug Buzz to hit hard with a bug move, and it hits through the substitutes. It also has Thunder. Thunder is a hard-hitting electric move that goes really well with the ability Compound Eyes, as Thunder has low accuracy, but since Compound Eyes raises that accuracy, Thunder, I never really missed a Thunder. There were a few times that I did, but it was so rare thanks to the ability Compound Eyes. And then the last move, I just went for Thunder Wave in case, something happens, or I can predict a switch, or I know, Galvantula can't really hit this thing too hard. Getting the Paralyzed to have the opponent's speed and to give him a chance to not be able to attack or do anything on a turn is another really valuable thing. Overall, this Galvantula really just set up for my team, allowing Feraligatr to outspeed things it normally couldn't, and other team members to do the same thing, where, normally they might not be able to outspeed something, but thanks to Galvantula's Sticky Web or Paralysis, they now can. In addition, Galvantula can also hit extremely hard, so overall, this Pokemon is probably the entire backbone of my team. The fourth team member I went with is actually Charizard. Now, Charizard in the meta right now is the best Gigantamax Pokemon you can honestly ask for. It's an overall just big special attacking beast, and it's pretty fast at that. His whole job was to Gigantamax, which I did by finding a mushroom biome, which took me hours, and then finding 3 max mushrooms to then craft into max soup, feed it to the Charizard, and it allowed him to Gigantamax. The item and ability, so the item is actually Assault Vest to raise his special defense. I did this in case there were any other Charizards that wanted to try and Air Slash me, or any water types with, you know, like Scald, Hydro Pump, or Surf to help me better survive those. Solar Power for the ability because it raises Charizard's special attack in sunlight, and while I don't have a Sunsetter on my team, I knew there were opponents in the tournament using Groudon, and you know, everyone knows that Groudon has Drought, or if it's Primal Groudon, has Desolate Land, which sets up Sun for me, which allows Charizard to use that Solar Power ability into very good use. The moveset I went for with Charizard is Flamethrower, Air Slash, Dragon Pulse, Solar Beam. Now, this moveset is pretty good with Charizard on its own. However, the main purpose of these moves is for Charizard to Gigantamax. When Charizard Gigantamaxes, Flamethrower turns into G-Max Wildfire, which what that does is it's not only just a really hard-hitting fire move, but it puts them in this sort of like fire burn state for 4 turns, and it's extremely good for chipping down damage or finishing off Pokemon with focus sashes or Pokemon with very little health, and just overall that chip damage can add up and it's very useful. Air Slash turns into Max Airstream, which whenever a Pokemon uses Max Airstream, it raises their speed, so my Charizard can become even faster. Dragon Pulse turns into Max Wormwind, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which is literally just used to counter dragon types, honestly. That's the only reason why I ran Dragon Pulse. I was scared if they had maybe a Mega Charizard X, a Zekrom, or something else along those lines. And then Solar Beam turns into Max Overgrow, which allows me to set up grassy terrain, which heals the Pokemon at the end of each turn, which can act as a little leftover side effect for Charizard. But the main reason why I used Max Overgrow was to counter enemy Kyogres that might feel good switching into my Charizard and taking it out with a water move. Max Overgrow can do big damage to those and potentially even one-shot them if they're not invested in EVs correctly. Overall, this Charizard was a very good member and extremely good hard-hitting, and the best Gigantamax Pokemon in the entire tournament, I would argue, and overall, it did phenomenal. Alright, so the last 2 Pokemon on my team are my Legendaries. Now, in the tournament, you're only permitted 2 Legendaries per team, and honestly, some people would pick out their 2 Legendaries and build their team based around that. Other people, like myself, we were just catching Legendaries, seeing which ones would have the perfect nature if we got lucky enough, or kind of just seeing which ones really spoke to us, or stood out to us, or fit the team best. And honestly, I got extremely lucky finding both of these Legendaries, because I got the perfect natures for them, and I honestly would have felt like an idiot if I didn't run these legendary Pokemon with the perfect natures. So without further ado, my first legendary Pokemon was one I caught in the Roofed Forest, Xerneas. Xerneas has the ability Fairy Aura and the item Power Herb. Now, Xerneas' Fairy Aura, it raises the power of Xerneas' fairy moves, and the moveset was Moonblast, Thunderbolt, Psychic, Geomancy. Moonblast for that obvious stab and the best fairy move in the game. Thunderbolt was used to counter any bulky waters, flying types, or to hit anything neutrally, and Psychic was used to counter any poison types that might get an idea about trying to take out my Xerneas. I could have gone for Focus Blast in here, but I felt really uncomfortable with it being 70% accurate, so I opted for those 3 moves as my attacking moves. And Geomancy, what Geomancy does is it takes 2 turns to use, kind of like Solar Beam without it being in the sunlight, and it raises your speed by 2, your special attack by 2, and your special defense by 2. Again, this move takes 2 turns, unless you're holding the item Power Herb, and that's exactly what my Xerneas was holding. So in 1 turn, Xerneas could get ×2 speed, special attack, and special defense, and this thing had very, very good sweeping potential. This was one of the scariest legendaries going into the tournament, and Xerneas has honestly kind of fell out of the meta in a Dynamax format, but if I could force my opponents to waste their Dynamax and just use it, and if I could take out all their steel types, Xerneas could come in, use Geomancy, and just play cleanup or possibly even sweep if they don't have an answer for this thing. However, in the tournament, there honestly were a lot of scary steel types or Xerneas counters, but my Xerneas still did extremely good, especially in the finals. And, you know, this Pokemon, since I got a timid nature one, which allowed it to outspeed a lot of legendaries, and I decided to invest the EVs in its HP to make it more bulky, and its EVs in special attack, you know, just for that maximum damage potential. This thing was a monster, and if the enemy didn't have a good check for this thing or a good steel type answer, Xerneas would absolutely decimate them. Alright, so my final member of my team is my other legendary Pokemon, which funny enough I also found in the Roofed Forest, and that was an Adamant Necrozma, which I then fused with Solgaleo to get a perfect natured Necrozma Duskmane. Duskmane had the ability Prison Armor, which allowed him to take less damage from super effective hits, and the item I chose for him to hold was actually Leftovers, just to get a little bit of HP after every turn. The moveset I went with was Sunsteel Strike for a hard-hitting steel move, which was also stab, Psychic Fangs for that physical psychic stab move, Earthquake because I didn't really have like a super good electric answer, so I thought just putting Earthquake on him, it's a hard-hitting move, it can counter electric types, even some steel types. Overall a good option there. And then the last move was Dragon Dance. Now, Necrozma Duskmane has a fantastic role in being a huge counter to Fairy, Dragon, and Poison type Pokemon. And honestly, even some more types if you want to get more specific. And I gotta say that his synergy with my Galvantula's Sticky Web was amazing. The EV investment that I chose was maxed out attack and maxed out HP. Now, the HP just allowed him to be extremely tanky, which he already has, you know, good defenses and a good defensive typing. But now, with maxed out HP EVs, he could just soak in so much damage. And maxed out attack allowed him to have an attack stat of 454 without any boost. However, his speed was at a low 190, and sometimes even Galvantula's Sticky Web lowering enemy speed, they would still be able to outspeed this Necrozma. That's where Dragon Dance come in. With its amazing bulk, it could get a Dragon Dance or two off, which would raise its speed up and its attack up, allowing it to hit extremely hard, and it can move pretty fast. Plus, with that Sticky Web being on the ground, the synergy with that Galvantula and this Necrozma was out of this world. I knew this Necrozma with my EV investment and my moveset would do very good in the tournament, but a lot of people in the tournament actually voted it for, you know, being one of the best Pokemon in the entire tournament, and I was very proud of that and very happy with that. This Necrozma Duskmane was insane. Necrozma Duskmane could have such good sweeping potential, and even if it couldn't sweep the enemies, this thing would just hit them with sheer force alone, and it was a force to be reckoned with. Alright, as we get into the battles, I do want to clarify that I am only including my battles in this video. But if you would like to watch all the Pixelmon Tournament battles, along with all the reactions that we had to everything that happened, links are in the description as they are videos in there. I uploaded the entire VOD and they're in a playlist on my channel. Click that link in the description down below to watch the entire Pixelmon Tournament. It's split up into 4 parts. Really good watch. And yeah, let's just get on with the battle. So in round 1, I face off against Frag, who has a pretty scary team. However, my Necrozma is simply scarier. Here's what happened. The battle starts with my Galvantula using Sticky Web, and he uses Venusaur as his lead. Turn 2, he one-shots the Galvantula after using Leech Seed the first turn. However, I then realized that Venusaur can't really do anything to my Necrozma, so after Galvantula falls, I send in Necrozma, and he can't do anything to me at all, and while I'm scared of a Leech Seed, I think if I can Dragon Dance up enough, I could get a potential sweep. So that's exactly what I do. 2 Dragon Dances later, he finally switches, but it's too late. Necrozma nearly sweeps him, even one-shotting his Primal Groudon, and then at the end, after Necrozma falls, the rest of my team comes in to clean up, and we proceed with Battle 2. Now, I know in battle 1 I got pretty lucky as he let me set up, and I know going into our next battle, he's not going to let me set up. So I go with a different plan. It starts off the same exact way as battle 1 did, with the exception that I saw Galvantula couldn't really do much damage to Venusaur, and she got leech seeded. So I swap out in Necrozma instantly after doing Sticky Web, and you know, I don't go for the setup this time because, like I said, I know Fragged won't let me do that again. So I just use Psychic Fang, which lets me take out the Venusaur, but he uses Leech Seed right before going out. He then sends in Electivire, doing a fair chunk of damage, but Necrozma one-shots it with Earthquake. Primal Groudon gets sent out, and I get a massive hit with Earthquake, but he does the same. And I know I can't take him out next turn, but I do just enough damage to get him in one-shot range before he takes out Necrozma. I send in Charizard to get the revenge kill by Gigantamaxing and using Wildfire to set up the Fire Trap. He sends out Lapras, which tries to set up Rain Dance, but I have Max Overgrow to take it out in 2 hits. He sends out Gengar, Mega Evolves it, and I go for Air Slash doing big damage. Then the Fire does damage, and then I decided to just switch out, send in Feraligatr, use Crunch, and take it out. Honestly, I want to say before going on to round 2 is that I think Frag played very well. I don't think the Venusaur start was it, and I definitely think Mega Evolution over Dynamax isn't worth it unless you're doing a very niche strategy. So overall, I think he did well, but I think the Mega Evolution instead of Dynamax really held him back. Now let's go to round 2. I proceed to round 2 where I had to battle Zach, and his team was pretty offensive with a really good defensive backbone as Lunala. But he didn't have a super good counter to Xerneas, so I knew that going in. Battle 1 starts with my usual Galvantula Sticky Web, and he leads with Garchomp. I survive an Earthquake thanks to Focus Sash, and do some chip damage with Bug Buzz before being taken out. I send in Feraligatr and immediately go for the Ice Punch, but he switched out to Swampert to tank it. I use Swords Dance while he doesn't do much damage to me, and I hit with Crunch, taking it to 6%, but he hits back with a massive Earthquake. He then switches into Arceus and tanks a big Crunch, but proceeds to knock out Feraligatr with extreme speed. While I hoped Feraligatr would do more, he did good damage, and I'm down 2 Mons, while he's down none, but they are super low, including the Arceus, so I send in a Xerneas and get a free Geomancy setup while he uses Recover. I then hit a crazy critical hit Moonblast, and I'm not sure if it mattered, but I'm glad I got it anyway. While Xerneas is set up now and took out his Arceus, Zach sends in Lunala. We trade really heavy blows, and he even tries Dynamaxing Lunala, but it's not enough as Xerneas takes out Lunala after a couple turns. Xerneas then goes on a huge rampage and takes out the rest of Zach's team. Lucario, Rampardos, Swampert, Garchomp, all of them fall to Xerneas, and I win with a huge sweep against Zach, thanks to Xerneas, and Feraligatr for doing big damage. Then, we go to Battle 2. I decide to lead Breloom instead of Galvantula, as I'm hoping he'd start the same so I can put Garchomp to sleep, but I get an even better start than I could have hoped for. See, he leads Garchomp, I lead Breloom, I tank a Fire Fang, but I put him to sleep right then and there. I then decide to just go for a Focus Punch to do big damage, but he swaps to Arceus, and his Arceus takes a massive hit with Focus Punch. With Breloom getting his Arceus weak, I know he's going to switch, and I'm nervous he'll send in Lunala, that way he's immune to Focus Punch, so I go for Seed Bomb, and he sends in Rampardos, which goes down to 6%. I know he's forced to switch again, so I just use Seed Bomb yet again, and he sends in Swampert, which gets O-Code by Breloom. Arceus comes back out, and I decide to go for a substitute, hoping he'll recover. He does exactly that, and next turn I use Focus Punch while his extreme speed hits the substitute, and I take out the Arceus. Lunala comes in next and takes out Breloom while also Dynamaxing. I send in Galvantula to not just set up Sticky Web, but to waste his last 2 Dynamax turns thanks to Focus Sash. And then I do some chip damage. All of that in one go thanks to Galvantula. After Galvantula falls out, his Dynamax ends, but mine begins as I send in Charizard and Gigantamax. I use Wildfire to set up the fire and do huge damage to Lunala while Lunala hits back. I then use Airstream to raise my speed, and I get really lucky as he misses a Hypnosis. Then, Lunala falls to the Flames. Lucario comes out, and he falls to Wildfire. And while my Dynamax ends, he only has a Sleeping Garchomp left and a 6% Rampardos, which I take out and win the battle. Overall, I got very lucky in this set with not only a huge crit on the Arceus in Battle 1, but in Battle 2, Zach missing a Hypnosis. Plus, with the crazy Breloom start I had in Battle 2, I was put in a phenomenal position. We then proceed to the semifinals. My opponent now is Luke, who surprised everyone this tournament with not only outplaying Spooky, but just being an overall rising underdog. Not to mention, he had Arceus Steel and a Zamazenta, which terrified my Xerneas. However, with my speed control and all my other Pokemon, I knew I had a chance. Battle 1, he leads Crobat, hoping I would do a surprise Breloom start, but I start with Galvantula, and instead of setting up the Sticky Web, I go for Thunder, and luckily he doesn't switch, assuming I would go for Sticky Web, and I one-shot the Crobat. Tyranitar comes out, and I set up a Sticky Web while he uses Stone Edge. Normally I'd hang on with a Focus Sash, but Tyranitar Sandstorm knocks out Galvantula at the end of the turn. With Sticky Web up and Galvantula getting a huge KO, I send in Breloom. He sets up Stealth Rock, but I then put Tyranitar to sleep. I try to predict him switching into Centiskorch, so I swap to Feraligatr, but he sends in Zamazenta instead. He then swaps to Samurott while I go for Waterfall, but Feraligatr gets a crit, bringing Samurott to 43%. I go for a Swords Dance, knowing Samurott doesn't really have a good move for my Feraligatr, but he Dynamaxes and gets a huge hit on me. However, the +2 attack is able to take him out next turn with a Waterfall, thanks to his Samurott using Max Geyser, setting up the rain. Feraligator's just in a super good spot here. He sends in Arceus, but Feraligatr OHKOs it with Waterfall. Zamazenta comes out and barely tanks a Waterfall, and then takes out Feraligatr. With Zamazenta being weak, I send in Charizard to take it out with a quick Dragon Pulse. He then sends in Tyranitar, who's asleep, and I Gigantamax Charizard and two-shot it with Max Overgrow. Centiskorch comes out, but it can't do much damage to Charizard, and it falls to an Air Slash, and I win Battle 1. Battle 2 begins, and Luke makes a terrible play at the start, which even he would agree was not the best play on his part, and definitely costed him this battle. He leads Centiskorch, I lead Galvantula, and while I set up Sticky Web, he swaps to Tyranitar. However, next turn, instead of doing the same thing he did in Battle 1 to just take out my Galvantula with Stone Edge in the Sandstorm, he sets up Stealth Rock. This is where he went wrong, as Galvantula just two-shots Tyranitar with Bug Buzz. Arceus comes out, and I tank a Judgment, and I do good damage with Thunder. However, he then Dynamaxes to take out Galvantula, but she did good chip damage before going out. I send in Necrozma, but he sends in Centiskorch. Earthquake does huge damage though, and then takes it out next turn with Psychic Fang. Arceus comes back out, but Necrozma eats a Surf Attack and then takes it out with Earthquake. Zamazenta comes out and he does a big close combat hit while also surviving an Earthquake. Necrozma falls to another close combat, but I then send in Feraligatr. Feraligatr takes out Zamazenta with Waterfall. Crobat comes in, does huge damage with Brave Bird, but I OHKO it with Ice Punch. Samurott comes out next, and it can't do much damage for Alligator, so I just use 3 crunches to take it out, winning me the entire set. Honestly, Luke played very well, but most of my team could honestly stack up against his, not to mention that mistake in Battle 2 of not just hurrying up and taking out the Galvantula costed him that entire set there. However, I've now earned my spot in Grand Finals, and I wait as my opponent battles through losers. There's a chance that I could battle Luke again, however I don't, as my final opponent is my best friend, Hayden. The final set in the tournament begins in Battle 1 with his Rampardos and my Galvantula, and while I set up Sticky Web, I survive a Rock Slide thanks to Focus Sash. I go for a Thunder and get a huge hit off, but he then misses a Rock Slide. I feel super lucky, but then I miss my next Thunder attack, and then he takes out Galvantula with a Rock Slide. That was a real roller coaster of emotions there. I send in Necrozma, getting a quick revenge kill, and then he sends in Torterra. He sets up a Leech Seed while tanking a Psychic Fang. Next turn, I go for Dragon Dance and take an Earthquake. And then the next turn, I use Psychic Fang, but his Torterra barely hangs on and takes out Necrozma with a final Earthquake. I send in Feraligatr for yet another revenge kill, this time on the Torterra. But then next, he sends out Zapdos, which OHKOs Feraligatr before I can get an Ice Punch there. I really needed him to miss Thunder with Zapdos, but he didn't. I then feel comfortable in this position though, as I send in Xerneas and I go for a Geomancy while he uses Volt Switch. He switches into Snorlax, but my Xerneas is now all set up. And I predict the Snorlax having a Steel move, so I decide to Dynamax this turn to tank it. And funny enough, he also chooses to Gigantamax his Snorlax. Yeah, quick side note here, his Snorlax was annoying the entire tournament, as it had a Figgy Berry, the ability Gluttony, and the move Recycle. And it was Gigantamax, which gave it the G-Max move, G-Max Replenish, which is literally just Recycle, but also does big damage while giving the berry back. Yeah, it was annoying. Alright, back to the battle. I tank the Steel hit and do huge damage with Max Starfall. I then hit another Max Starfall and take out the Snorlax. Zapdos comes in but gets OHKO'd by Xerneas. Blaziken comes out next and he uses Protect, allowing him to get a free speed boost turn, but it's still not enough to outspeed Xerneas, and I OHKO it next turn. Kyogre comes out, tanks a Thunderbolt, and then Xerneas barely survives an Origin Pulse, which is rain boosted. I take it out next turn with Thunderbolt, and we go to Battle 2. I start Galvantula, he starts Torterra. And instead of setting up the Sticky Web right away, I use Bug Buzz to two-shot the Torterra, but he had set up Stealth Rock in the process. Rampardos comes out, and I survive a Bulldoze after setting up the Sticky Web, and before Galvantula falls, she gets a big hit with Thunder. I send out Necrozma to get a revenge kill on the Rampardos, and his Blaziken comes out next. While he uses Protect, I actually use Dragon Dance. Next turn, he tries to Dynamax his Blaziken, but Necrozma instantly shuts him down with a Psychic Fang before he even has the chance. Primal Kyogre comes out next, and I use Psychic Fang to do big damage while tanking a Water Spout hit. Zapdos is out next, but Necrozma OHKOs it. He sends out Snorlax, and I take it out with 3 Psychic Fangs, winning the battle. Honestly, Hayden was scary, as he literally battled from round 1 losers bracket all the way to the top where he got, and he deserves the most praise. However, Hayden did not have a solid answer for Xerneas, or really any fairy type for that matter, nor did he have anything for Sticky Web at all, which let me have complete speed control and free setup with Xerneas. Overall, he was a phenomenal opponent. I literally just outclassed him for he didn't have enough type coverage for fairies, and he didn't have anything for Sticky Web. All in all, it was a great final battle, and the top 3 of the first Pixelmon Tournament season were 3rd place Luke, 2nd place Hayden, and 1st place me. And I actually didn't lose an entire battle in any of my sets while doing it. And that concludes the Ultimate Pixelmon Tournament and how I won. Quick thank you to everyone that joined in this first Pixelmon Tournament season, as it was a lot of fun, and I thank everyone who just, made it what it was. I'm very happy that I won, and I feel like everyone had an equal opportunity to. We saw some really creative teams, some really meta picks, and overall, it was just super fun, and I thank everyone for joining in. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for watching this entire video, and I do want to say, again, by the time this video is uploaded, Pixelmon Tournament Season 2 is going to be started streaming on my Twitch channel, link in the description, like a day or 2 from the day this is uploaded. Not to mention, I'm probably going to upload some videos of it here on the channel, as well as some other Pixelmon content like Pixelmon tips and tricks. I want to work on a Pixelmon 100 days, and just some other regular Pokemon videos as well. With all that said, thank you guys again for watching. And if you want to see all the battles in their entirety, not just my battles and hearing about them, but just watching them all and hearing my interaction with everyone else's interaction and just reactions overall with the battles, all 4 parts are linked in the description down below. It is just the entire Pixelmon Tournament stream VOD. All of that's there in the description. And yeah, so if you want to watch that and you're interested, feel free to watch it. But that concludes this video. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe, as I'm going to upload a very similar video to this, although it's going to be a lot better, as admittedly this video, it's my first time trying something like this, and I already know what I'm going to do better in the next video. However, I'm going to do another video like this for Season 2 whenever the tournament rolls around, which the tournament won't be till, you know, a month or two from now. But still, be on the lookout for that, as well as all my other Pokemon and Pixelmon content alike. Thanks again for watching, thanks again for liking and subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next video, or over on my Twitch channel, streaming Pixelmon Tournament Season 2, and if we can win. That concludes it. Peace out, guys.